Hello students, welcome to Byju's IAS. This is 6th of October 2021. Let's begin the daily quiz. Question number 1 on your screen is this. Which of the following statements is or are correct regarding the Ayushman Bharat scheme? Number 1. The National Health Authority is the agency responsible for implementing this scheme. Number 2. The scheme does not cover major illnesses such as cancer. Number 3. Learning from the COVID pandemic, the scheme now also covers the treatment for black fungus. Which of these given statements is or are correct? Let's consider these statements one by one. The first statement says that NHA is the authority or agency responsible for implementing the scheme. This is absolutely correct. It's a factual point. Second, the scheme does not cover major illnesses such as cancer is actually wrong. One of the reasons why this scheme was introduced was to ensure that people are able to afford treatment for such high costing illnesses. The third statement, learning from the COVID pandemic, the scheme now also covers the black fungus treatment is absolutely correct. And in fact, this is the reason why we are asking this question today. I'll share with you a snippet of the Hindu article. The correct answer to this question is C, 1 and 3. As you can see, this is an article from the Hindu newspaper today. The heading itself tells you that the scheme will now cover black fungus and also the rates for 400 procedures have been changed. It is important to note that the Ayushman Bharat scheme recently completed 3 years of its existence. It started in 2018 and has been providing a cover of 5 lakh rupees per annum per family. In order to make this scheme much more effective, there was a demand that the government should revise the rates of procedures that are involved. One of the reasons why many people were not being able to take advantage of the scheme was that the hospitals were not offering readily treatment. The hospitals were of the view that they are not compensated well enough for the procedures that they undertake. Keeping that in mind, the rates for 400 procedures have been changed and illnesses such as black fungus are now also being covered. As you can see from this article, clearly it says that the revised packages for oncology will enhance cancer care for the beneficiaries in the country, which indicates the fact that illnesses such as cancer are also a part of this Ayushman Bharat scheme. The addition of black fungus also comes as a huge relief. All this, as I said, is done on the occasion of the scheme completing 3 years. The government has put a lot of effort into publicizing this scheme, and that is why it's important for us to remember important provisions of this scheme. The scheme aims to cover treatment at primary, secondary, as well as the tertiary levels with two main components. The first one being Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana, the second one being the health and wellness centers. As I said, the insurance cover provided is rupees 5 lakh per annum per family. This is completely cashless. So to get a treatment, you don't have to spend the money. The hospital will straight away get in touch with the insurance partners and claim their expenses. Also, there is no capping on the family size. So the family can be 2 people, can be 5 people, can be 8 people. There is no capping. The capping is on the total insurance coverage provided to the entire family. In fact, it also includes pre and post hospitalization expenses, and it also covers all types of pre-existing conditions. Now, pre-existing conditions means, for example, if I'm trying to buy an insurance scheme today, and if I already have a problem in my kidney, this is called a pre-existing condition. So any disease, any illness that I had before I bought an insurance scheme is called pre-existing conditions. Usually when you buy an insurance scheme, personally, most companies will not cover pre-existing conditions, but Ayushman Bharat scheme does cover it, which comes again as a huge relief. Moving on to the second question. Which of the following nations is a member of Quad but not a member of AUKUS? Is it India? Is it the UK? Is it the US? Or is it Australia? Both the groupings, as you know, have been in the news of late, with Quad having 4 members: India, Japan, the US, and Australia. AUKUS, on the other hand, as the name suggests, has A for Australia, UK, and the US. Now focus on the question, which country is a member of Quad but not a member of AUKUS, which that is India. Now, both these groups have been in the news, they have been relevant in the past. Both these groups have been focusing on the expansive activities that China has been undertaking in the Indian Ocean region specifically. There is an article in the Hindu newspaper's editorial today about AUKUS and how India needs to maintain good relationship with AUKUS. Although the entire article itself is pretty relevant, but focus on the last part mainly when it talks about comparison between Quad and AUKUS. Also, to give you an idea about how AUKUS came into the picture, about a few weeks back, Australia wanted to buy some submarines and they had placed an order with France. However, very abruptly, they cancelled their order with France and instead went on to buy those submarines from US and UK. This defense agreement laid the foundation of AUKUS, although it angered France, and France in retaliation even called back its ambassador from the US also. But this is how the formation of AUKUS took place. India, obviously, as you can see, is not a member of AUKUS because Quad is not based on any defense buying or selling. It is more of cooperation among the 4 countries to contain the expanse of China to ensure that there is freedom of navigation in the Indian Ocean region. Question number 3. Which of the following statements is or are correct regarding the transfer of judges of the high courts in India? First, the president can transfer the judges of the high court based on the recommendations of the collegium. Second, the decision to transfer the high court judges isn't open to judicial review. Third, the governors of the states involved are also consulted by the president before the transfer order is given. Which of these given statements is or are correct? First statement, the fact that the president can transfer the high court judges based on the collegium's recommendations is absolutely correct. Second, the decision to transfer high court judges is not open to judicial review is actually wrong. The Supreme Court itself has clarified that the judge who is being transferred would be considered as a locus standi, means that particular judge only would be the concerned person in the case. And if that high court judge wants, he or she can actually file an appeal in the Supreme Court against the transfer order. So it is open to judicial review. If the high court judge thinks that the order given is arbitrary, he or she is open to filing an appeal in the Supreme Court. Third, the governors of the states are also consulted. This again is incorrect. While the recommendation is given by the collegium, they may also consult the chief justices of the concerned high courts. So the governors of the concerned states are not involved in the process. However, the chief justices of the concerned high courts may be consulted in this entire process, meaning that the answer has to be A. First statement only is correct. The reason why we are reading about this is 15 high court judges were recently transferred across 11 high courts. Although the procedure of transfer of judges is not given in this article, but we can connect it to the static part of Indian polity and it becomes relevant for you to study. Next, question number 4. The 13th Amendment to the Sri Lankan Constitution, often seen in the news, deals with A. Non interference by other nations in internal affairs of Sri Lanka. B. Power devolution to provincial councils established to govern the nation's 9 provinces. C. Universal adult franchise. And D. Control over the nation's exclusive economic zone. Now, whenever you talk about Sri Lanka, Sri Lanka's history, specifically the Civil War, we talk about the 13th Amendment. This is an amendment that talks about power devolution to provincial councils. Mainly, it talks about the distribution of power between the minority Tamil population and the majority Sinhalese population. As you know, India has been supporting the claim of the Tamil population in Sri Lanka ever since the beginning of the Civil War and even before that. It was a result of agreement signed between the Indian and the Sri Lankan government that the 13th Amendment was introduced in the Sri Lankan constitution. However, the international community, including India, believes that the Sri Lankan government has not done enough to implement the 13th Amendment in its letter and spirit. You would see time and again in the UN and in the international meetings the Sri Lankan government being asked to implement the 13th Amendment properly so that the rights of the Tamil population are given to them. The reason why we are discussing this is because our Foreign Secretary, Sri Harsh Shringla, met the Sri Lankan president recently and discussed how can we go ahead and make sure that the 13th Amendment is completely followed in the country and the Tamil minority population gets its due. Moving on, question number 5. The Senkaku Islands, often seen in the news, are a part of the territorial dispute between China and South Korea, Japan and North Korea, China and Japan, South Korea and North Korea. The correct answer to this question, as you can imagine, is C. These islands form a part of the dispute between China and Japan. In fact, if you look at it closely, there is a third party also involved in the dispute, that is Taiwan. Interestingly, these islands are known by different names in Japan, China, and in Taiwan. The reason why it is in the news is because of this particular article. The Japanese Prime Minister, the new Japanese Prime Minister, had his first official talk with the US President and gave a statement that the US is ready to defend the disputed islands that Japan has laid its claims on. These, the Senkaku Islands, also called as the East China Sea Islets, are a part of the territorial dispute between Japan and China mainly. However, as I said, Taiwan also lays its claims on the islands. Now let's look at a previous year question that was asked in the 2019 prelims examinations. Building Kalyan Mandaps was a notable feature in the temple construction in the kingdom of Chalukyas, Chandelas, Rashtrakutas or the Vijayanagar Empire. The questions here talks about Kalyan Mandaps. Kalyan Mandaps were mainly structures that were made for grand weddings, weddings of important people. This actually is a notable feature of the Vijayanagar Empire. So it's a question from ancient history and art and culture. I hope that you would be able to remember this. And now is the time about the fact of the day. There is a very important table in the graphic form given in the Hindu newspaper today, which I would like to discuss with you. It talks about the changing feature of employment in India. As you know, ever since the first lockdown was announced, there has been a lot of reports coming up about the declining rate of employment in India and how unemployment is increasing. However, there is a ray of hope in this. These graphs highlight the fact that employment has actually increased in the month of September 2021, with about 85 lakh or 8.5 million new jobs being added in September 2021. The interesting part of this entire number is that the number of jobs that are increasing are more in the rural areas as compared to the urban areas. As you can see, the jobs are decreasing in the urban areas. We saw a large scale migration, or not migration, in a large scale, people actually going back to their rural homes, rural households, people who had actually come to cities for jobs. The total employment now stands at 406.2 million, that is 40 and a half crore plus. The number of people who are employed in the rural areas is increasing as compared to the urban areas. So as you can see, high rural share, as many as 6.5 million jobs of the 8.5 million added came from the rural areas. Only 2 million jobs were added in the urban area. So that is again a very important pointer which you must understand. Due to the second COVID wave, the total employment in April and May was much lower, as you can see from this graph. But after the second wave subsided, the number of people who are being employed is actually increasing. So this is where you can actually see how the graph is increasing. Apart from this, the graph also talks about the rural industry. As I said, the rural industry is the one that has added most of the jobs. As many as 7.5 million jobs were added in construction, while 4.7 million jobs were added in the manufacturing sector. The service sector shed workers in the rural areas, but it added workers in the urban area. So a lot of complex takeaways from this graph, which are pretty relevant for you, which you can easily quote in your answers if there is a relevant question in the mains examination. Another ray of hope is that the salaried jobs actually increase, which had a positive impact in the employment of the people. Such jobs are at their highest level in the past 20 years. This is it for today's daily quiz. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching.